much. Can we give these guys and gals a round of applause? Thank you so much, everyone.
So next is lunch. Yay! We're going to be going down one floor, so it's like a short little trip, and we're going to be eating in 3 different classrooms. You can pick what classroom will show you where they are. The food's all identical. And then after lunch, we're all going to be again together, and we're going to go across the street. So we'll make sure that everybody's together before we head across the street. But don't worry if the schools are split. If it's okay with the teachers.
It's fine. How long will the lunch last?
The lunch ends
1:05. Yeah, so 12, half an hour, yep.
And we can also show
Alright.
Oh, okay.
Is that now?
For some reason, thank you, everyone.
So we're going that way. Oh my gosh. Oh, you got a car? No, I appreciate it.
For some reason, I did sign one, yeah. I think we had like a 10-minute break.
Here you go.
Oh, thank you so much.
You did it? Yeah, this morning. Yeah, if you want second floor, 210, 220, 210. Yeah. One more. Thanks. You have to sign that.
I'll write down. Where do you want it?
What are you doing now? I'm gonna watch the panel.
Okay.
What time does the next one start? You're getting.
Right now.
What time does the next panel start? James, what time does the next panel start? Hello.
I'm Lindsay. Nice to meet you. I met you like 5 years ago when I was a reporter.
Oh, that's very cool, but now I get to teach you.
So in like 5 minutes.
Like 2 minutes.
Okay, actually, I'm gonna bring you guys pizza, so you can eat. You can eat. There's cheese, veggie, barbecue chicken, pepperoni. What kind of pizza do you like?
Veggie is great.
Veggie.
Welcome, everyone.
Barbecue chicken's great.
Here's small groups. Why don't we
Yeah, I'm gonna pass it.
come on close?
Today is the 10th. Yes. Are you in now I'm in thank you.
Sure, also goalie cheers.
They also have salad. Good. We have turkey sandwich and veggie sandwich.
I have
Sandwich? Salad? Do you want a sandwich or salad instead? So, barbecue chicken, veggie, sandwich.
I'll take it. I'm just kidding.
2 veggies. Okay.
I'm trying to be healthy enough so we booked a snowboarding trip.
Are you still dancing competitively and stuff? Or is it like an actual tour? It's like very serious.
So when I go home, I choreograph this
That could be good, yes.
We can
I
ready for it now?
think there are 2 more groups.
Okay,
My
cool.
friend is like semi-good snowboarder. My girlfriend now.
It's like basically the difference between I've never seen like opera and I've doesn't translate to me like opera, for example. There's opera, and then there's like rock.
I see, okay.
Oh, yes, there's
Right.
like horse. It
Yeah.
became the 3 classes, the season class.
Do anything like or like any hobby, sorry, yeah.
And like it lasts for like like 7 years.
Yeah, no kidding. I cycle and run most right now. I also play ultimate
I'm gonna do that for weekend.
It's cold.
Well, it's just the club season is like spring, fall, kind of, and right now.
That's so exciting.
So, I'll wait till there's like with the club season, you have like, you have the social,
Yeah,
so you go
okay.
to tournaments together or something, whereas the club is more just like once a week, you just like meet up randomly and like talk to different people and I'm focusing on the cycling and yeah.
From my youth, I was
Yeah,
say that I'm like
yeah, so she's kind of like, oh, like we're like the team that owns so we are like it's kind of an infrastructure team, but we do like main things we do is like store account data and like do these kind of verify cookies for all the classes, and then like all that yeah. There's like every account has one Gaia ID that's like your unique identifier. We're Gaia, like we're the team that like owns your account and like assigns an ID.
Is that like Google's identity product?
Yeah, it's like far under the hood. Like you don't interact with it as like customer ever or a user, but it's like at the core of everything. Literally like whenever there is an outage or like you can't sign into Google or like you automatically got locked out and like something is you have to re-sign in. It's us. Like it's literally probably the person right next to you. It's not me. It's the person right next to you.
And one of the things I wanted to say for what you don't like about the industry is being on call.
Yeah.
She made it down, she found you.
When you compare it to our peers in like finance and consulting, like okay, you just like I'm not working 14-hour days.
Right. Yeah.
You sit right there.
So yeah.
What team are you on?
I'm on like well, I'm on the ML team.
Okay.
But we're kind of signed as part of like ranking stories. It's like camera and image integration.
Oh, okay.
Story ranking. If you see like the effects in the tray now, cameras like AR effects, monster chat. I'm still very much like ramping up.
I just have like 1 year. So I was like, that doesn't feel like
It takes at least a year. Like I hear that. You're also like never done. It's always saying it's always something like
yeah,
wake up, I get an email like, oh, learn this new thing that just came out. Talk to your customer about it. So yeah. Alright, I think we're yeah, I think so we started at 12 or welcome everyone. How's the day going so far? Good. Well, be excited. We have an awesome panel here for you. We're gonna if you have a question, I'm gonna pass it right off. No, I'm just kidding. But if you have a question, please ask it. So we're gonna be kind of talking about pathways and how you can get into the computer science industry. We just had an awesome conversation, our last group, and I think you're gonna learn that there's not one solid way to get into computer science. So hopefully, when some of these folks tell their story, you can kind of relate to it, resonate to it, and kind of hear the different ways you can get into the industry if you're interested in it. So I'll get us kicked off. My name is James Coleman. I'm a technical account manager at Microsoft. So I manage a book of customers and kind of help them realize value in Microsoft products, help them strategically plan for different upgrades and using different cloud technologies and things like that. So kind of pass along the line here.
Hi everyone, my name's Chris. I'm currently a software engineer at Instagram. A little bit of background. I'm originally from Los Angeles, and I went to Stanford, and before Stanford I had no prior exposure to computer science, so I was actually a competitive dancer, and I would train like 25 to 30 hours a week in classical ballet, contemporary hip-hop, a bunch of different genres, and so my life was really headed down one direction until I got to Stanford, and it's really common to take the introductory computer science courses. As you can imagine, Stanford is in the Silicon Valley area, which has a really huge tech presence, and there's a lot of kind of almost like pressure to take that course and just to try it out and see if it's for you. And so that's what happened to me. I got lucky. I fell in love with it. And fast forward 5 years, so I finished my undergrad there, and I also continued to do a master's in computer science. And I concentrated in artificial intelligence for both of those degrees. And so now I'm doing that in my day-to-day job.
Hello everyone, my name is Sarah Hayden. I am currently a content designer at a company called Sam's Club. It is similar to Costco, but under the Walmart Corporation. Prior to that, I guess one of the things that has connected all of my experiences has been related to creating opportunities for storytelling and more inclusive media. I graduated from, I grew up in Wyoming and Colorado, so outside of Silicon Valley, similar to Chris, and I had never been exposed to computer science before. And so once I came to UC Berkeley for undergrad, I heard whispers of it, but it wasn't until I decided to pursue a master's degree at Stanford that I felt encouraged and invited to give it a go myself. So I also signed up for a common introductory course, got my feet wet with Java and making Corel go. And although I haven't ended up pursuing computer science as a full-time discipline, I think computer science, it's a practice that you can do. You can do computer science and whatever it is. And so just that preliminary foundation gave me the confidence I needed when I was working in a startup, and you kind of ended up doing everything to be able to go in and fix something in your HTML or just something in the CSS for emails and websites. And now in my full-time role, I work closely with our engineering partners, and so there might be opportunities where I was the only non-full-time engineer on a hackathon team once, but working with our engineering teammates, it helps our communication go more smoothly and think about problems in a different way and come together for better solutions for the people we're designing for.
Hi everyone, I am Luisa. I am a software engineer at Google. Work on account management stuff. So when you sign in and sign up and log out and all that stuff, you hit the servers that I'm working on. I also went to UC Berkeley. I had not done anything related to computer science before starting college, and I kind of only took the class because my older brother told me I really had to, because he thought I'd like it. I thought I wouldn't, but he was right, I was wrong. So I started out taking the CS for non-majors class, assuming that I would just kind of do it for a semester for fun, but it was too much fun, so I took the next CS class too, and then the next one, and the next one, and eventually, after some struggles and uncertainties and whatever, I decided to become a CS major. And then I graduated a couple of years ago and worked at a startup for a little while that actually came out of the lab right behind you. Then I left that startup and started working at Google. That's where I am now.
Hi everyone, my name is Lindsay. I'm an integration consultant over at Workday. I was a transfer student at Cal State East Bay. Originally I came in for chemical engineering because my sister had already claimed the computer engineering space, so I was like, I'm going to do what she can't do, and that's chemistry. But the more opportunities that my sister brought me into, whether it was a Girl Scout, a STEM day, a Microsoft TEALS event, or FIRST Robotics, I slowly fell in love with it, and I ended up changing my major my sophomore, junior year.
Thank you. So for those of you who didn't start in computer science and now you're in computer science, can you kind of talk us through not only how and why you made that decision, but also, you know, what the challenges were from coming from this one thing that you were comfortable with, and then now, you know, you're kind of jumping into the deep end in something that you're not familiar with and it's brand new to you.
Great. So I started off with chemistry, and I was very comfortable with that. But then I found out, and this is just me, I like instant gratification, and I found that you can get that through coding, whether it's a new little project you're doing, a test that you just made. Computer science is very fun in the fact that in most cases you can see something happen very quickly. Whether it's right or wrong, it's up to what you did, but you can instantly see what happened, and you can build up this giant project from those little victories, and that really caught my eye. It also caught my eye that just how many different fun aspects you can do with computer science, whether that's with hardware or software. There's a huge range of activities that you can do that just end up being really fun.
Did I start in computer science or not? Was this question?
Just whoever.
Okay, well, I guess we are all new in CS at some point. I think for me it was a mix of like being really exciting because it was very fun to build fun projects and learn about this whole new world of programming. I also thought it was very intimidating, maybe especially because I didn't have any CS experience coming into college, and a lot of my peers had experience from high school. So there was definitely a period of time where I felt like I was pretty far behind and everything was a struggle and everything was intimidating. But at the same time, I thought it was super interesting, and I was being challenged in a way that I really enjoyed. So it was kind of a mix of those two things for a good while in the beginning.
Yeah, I said earlier it was kind of like a collection of small moments for me, because when I arrived at Stanford with no exposure or experience with the discipline, you get the whole spectrum of people that show up on campus on the first day of freshman year. You get the people who literally came out of the womb programming, and like they're 20 years old and already have like sold a company or something or been acquired by it, and you're like, what? How did that happen? Yeah. So like some small moments. Like walking into the introductory course that I mentioned earlier and seeing 400 other freshmen who had never done this before, realizing that I was completing all my other homework first so that I could maximize the time spent on my programming assignment, was another moment. Getting a good grade back on an assignment or on a test, just these little things, these little crumbs I kind of picked up along the way that added to the confidence that I needed to go and pursue it for like 4 more years after that. Yeah.
You can,
No.
Yes?
You go.
Okay. So similarly, how there's no kind of clear path or straight line into CS, there's also, like, I'd say up and downs within someone's career. So you have challenges, you have successes. So the question I want to kind of hear from everyone is if you can share kind of a challenge throughout your career and a success. And I'll kick us off to let you guys think about it for a little bit. But I would say I joined Microsoft in May of last year, right after graduating school. So a challenge and the biggest challenge I think I've had in my career is making that transition from coming from university into a company like Microsoft, where and advice I guess I would say is that you have to really be willing to work and kind of have an open mind, kind of having the understanding that you're coming in and not having a lot of knowledge compared to some of your peers and some of the more experienced people in the roles. So a challenge for me was kind of, learning all the different products and getting to a level where I can kind of deliver and be performing at the same level as some of my peers was challenging for me. And I'd say, on the other side of that, a success story or a success in my career is, a year and a half later, I feel that I'm at that point where I've learned a lot of our products. I've kind of gotten to a comfortable level where I can, answer questions for my customers and kind of know the answers and deliver at a similar level to the more experienced people that are in my same role. So it's kind of both ends of that is challenging to kind of get ramped up out of college, but it's a good feeling and you feel successful, when you're able to kind of be at a comfortable level, pretty quickly within a role.
Have any of you heard of imposter syndrome or swimming duck syndrome? I would say one of the biggest challenges of my career, or whether it has been in academic context or in work context, it's this self-doubt, this element of saying to yourself, am I good enough? Do I belong here? Can I succeed? Overcoming imposter syndrome, and then giving myself the permission to trust that I do bring the skills and that I do have value to contribute to whatever context I might be in. And so then swimming duck syndrome, it's this idea, so if you look at a duck that is floating on the water, they look very still and they look very calm, but then underneath there's just wild paddling going on underneath. And so I think it's just the recognition that when you're in a community, whether it's at work or whether it's at school, everyone is working hard and at different pace, and we're all kind of staying afloat together. So it took me many years to realize that. And so I think one of my greatest successes in my career as someone who has had an idea of, or who has always had a multitude of different interests, it's this trust in myself that it will all work out and come together, and being comfortable with following my intuition as a way of knowing as much as my rational brain. So I went from communications to journalism to marketing to design and a bunch of probably jobs that didn't have titles in between. But identifying a North Star, so kind of a mission that identifies with my own values and my own principles, and trusting that if I take one small step toward that every day, then the rest of my career will work itself out. So yes, challenge, overcoming imposter syndrome, giving myself the permission and the comfort to know that yes, I do bring value, and then the success, being able to trust my own intuition and path.
I think my biggest challenge was being at the startup and basically realizing that you have to learn a ton of new stuff too to do anything. So basically I came out of college, right, being like pretty confident that I was like able to code stuff, but then when you start a new company, you have to do a lot of other things than just build things. You have to like figure out what you want to build, how to appeal to customers, how to reach customers, how to like figure out what they want, how to like do user testing, how to build MVP, so minimal viable products, before you like invest all of your time in like one thing that might not actually be that useful in the end. So like a ton of new concepts and like a whole new world where like honestly I spent most of my time not coding. I think that was like a massive challenge because there's a ton of independent learning and a ton of just trial and error and a ton of just the paddling without even the floating, just like just trying to stay afloat. So that was definitely, I think, the biggest challenge in my career. My biggest success might be, I guess, my first like major project at Google. They assigned me this project thinking it was going to be kind of small. And then it just expanded and expanded and expanded, which happens often in software engineering. And I actually just launched it like a few weeks ago, which is like a year after my start date. But it was really awesome. Like I learned a ton from it. I had to like communicate across different teams with different stakeholders. I learned a ton of things. I like spun up a new server at Google. Like that's kind of cool. Like there's a thing that's just like mine at Google now, and like a bunch of other things. And I think overall, as a complete project, it's a pretty cool thing to have done.
My biggest challenge was probably figuring out from school coding languages to a proprietary language that my company uses. And a lot of other companies also do this. And it can be a little bit frightening. You think you know exactly what you're doing. And you're like, I can do this. And then they're like, all right, great, forget all that. Here are your basics. Now let's build you back up. So that was a bit scary. And then my biggest success was probably this morning when I presented our hackathon project to our C-suite, and that was absolutely terrifying, but I definitely think it was a giant win for myself.
What is one thing that you wish you knew in high school about computer science, or that you would tell your high school self, or even college if that makes it easier, because a lot of these folks will be in college in the next couple of years, but what's something you wish you knew about the industry or computer science when you were post professional career or pre-professional career?
Start now. Doesn't matter what you are. Doesn't matter where you are at in computer science. Maybe you're doing snap, drag and drop. Maybe you're spinning up a server. Doesn't matter where you are. Just start somewhere, and that is a-okay where you are now. Don't feel bad that maybe I'm behind her. That's fine, because I'm on top of where I am. As long as you keep taking steps to improve yourself, you're doing great. And don't let imposter syndrome or what is it, duck paddling? Swimming duck get you down. You can do it.
I think this message hopefully has been echoed already, but or has been said, just to echo it, was computer science is not, and artificial intelligence for me is not this totally inaccessible, out of my reach thing that I made this joke in the earlier session that I really kind of equated it to rocket science, where it's for really old men with years of research under the belt with many PhDs. It was just not for me, or it wasn't available to me, and that's just simply not the case. I really now, looking back, kind of equate it to math or English or something that you take in high school, where sure, you may have more people such as myself that like math more, or other people who are more inherently better writers. Sure, you can have a mind that can naturally click into computer science faster, but I really do not think the foundational materials are beyond anyone's comprehension. I think everyone is entitled to a computer science education, which is why I work with TEALS. And yeah, don't let your fear of the discipline preclude you from taking the first step.
So you want to change the world? Computer science can help you do that at scale. And that's something that I heard from, I was looking to do a career switch from journalism at the time, and I ended up looking up the woman who was giving this podcast and connected with her on Twitter, and then we had a conversation together, and she told that to me. I think that would have given me the kick in the pants to, like Lindsay said, just get started and do it. And life is long and life is short, but this, as with any other practice, is something that you can return to. So you can restart again if you happen to go away. But if it's something that is of interest with you, try to water your flower of interest as you can.
I think in high school I just wish I had known about CS, but that's I think now one thing I tell my TEAL students is basically exactly what Chris just said, that like no one is built to or like born to do CS. Like maybe it might have like a slightly steeper, flatter learning curve in the beginning or throughout, but like everyone can do it, and if you enjoy it, it's for you. Like that's like I think the main part, that you should do something that you really like. I think one thing I would tell college students, and maybe already high schoolers based on the conversation so far, there's like a lot of stress about like getting internships and like working on all these side projects and like really proving yourself all the time and investing a lot of time outside of school too, just to get a job. And I think to some extent, that's fair. And if it's something you enjoy, again, like by all means go for it. I had plenty other hobbies in college and didn't feel like I had time for any of that. And like I actually worked in a bakery my freshman summer while people were doing like internships at Facebook and Google, and I didn't even apply for internships because like that was not on my mind. And I ended up doing just fine. And I think it's definitely one thing I would say to people that, like, yes, it's good to like invest in your future and like keep all doors open, but I also think it's like very valid to like prioritize things that you enjoy doing and like not stress out too much about it. I think things will work out if you want them to.
Awesome answers. So I kind of want to shift over to the students here. We would love to answer any questions that you have kind of going around in your minds. And we have this cool box here, so you get to have like fun and play a little catch if you have a question.
It's actually Mike.
Hello? Any questions? Christine in the back.
What's the lesson?
Wait, hold on.
What's a lesson you learned the hard way?
This is a recent one that I had a mild panic attack.
Do you want this one?
You should always save a copy of your code. Control is very important, people. So when you're going through a project, maybe you're making a snap-on project, maybe you're coding for a Harry Potter one. Make sure you have a little safe copy of something that worked in the past, or up until like some point. Because it's really hard when you work a lot and then you have to start from square one all over again. I think I'd say don't start a startup until you know that you have a really good idea and you have users who want that really good idea that you have.
I've had to reframe time and time again the way that I think of the concept of a dream job. I think once you attain a quote-unquote dream job, if you're doing it the right way, it will evolve into something else, and maybe your dream job doesn't even exist yet. But so keep evolving and keep learning, and be open to change, and don't get married to one idea of what a dream job might look like. Also, thinking about how I evaluate a dream job, I used to think it was about what you did, but it's also about who you work with, and making sure that you're staying focused on solving the kinds of problems that you want to solve out in the world. And so that can have many different manifestations.
actually push it into production, it has to pass a lot of tests, right? And the code I had written was breaking like 3 tests in particular, and I spent 4 days trying to figure out what was going on until I finally kind of confessed to my manager, I don't know what's going on, why this isn't working. He said, oh, those tests have been broken for months. You just override it and push. And I was like, oh my gosh, I just like wasted all this time because I was scared to ask for help. I don't know something. So.
Yeah, that was going to be mine, a similar kind of thought line. But I think a lot of company cultures, especially in the Bay Area, we're very collaborative. We bounce ideas off each other. We work closely with each other. So if you're struggling, like don't just continue to struggle yourself. Ask for help.
Want some help?
Hello. Any other questions? Ready?
What do you think you learned the most from?
It's a little bounce.
Not round.
Failure, when you do something wrong and you tried your hardest and something didn't work, that's what I learned the most from. You have step up until you have some platform that you're growing on. You realize something's wrong, doesn't work, so then you can look into why doesn't that work, and then you learn from there.
Yeah, that's a really good one. I'd say another one which is kind of related is like trying your best on your own and then asking for help, which is sort of, I guess, in between what you two said. Like, I think actually realizing where you get stuck on your own is going to help you realize your misconception or like the skill that you were missing. And then seeking help to have someone point that out to you is like a really good way to not waste time.
Even if something seems super challenging and terrifying, dive in. Just give it a try, give it a go. Trial and error. An experience.
I would kind of also maybe to touch on a different facet of the question, like from in a professional context, right? Maybe like there is a ton of value in what isn't working and what doesn't work, but there is also obviously a lot of value in what works. And so I would learn a lot from, like if I see someone in their career that's exactly where I want to be in 10 to 15 years, like reach out to them directly, find out what they did, how did you get to that place that you are now that I aspire to be. So learning from mentors is like a huge resource, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah, then I would say like doing. So for me, like my day-to-day job is interacting with customers. So when I was first getting into the role and I was taking all these trainings and learning products, my manager just got to a point and he's like, you know, you can only learn so much from doing trainings and, you know, reading articles and things. You just have to go out there, start talking to customers, start actually doing the job. And then the quicker you kind of start to do what's expected of you, the quicker you can make adjustments, you can fail fast, and then kind of reevaluate and then move from there. That answer your question? Cool. Other questions? It could be CS related, career related, anything.
Would you recommend me doing internship if I find my salary like CS for freshman year? Okay.
You're saying like in your freshman year of college, if you find your CS with an internship, do we think an internship?
College.
If you think it sounds really fun and like a way you would be excited to spend your summer, then go for it. There are less opportunities for freshmen in college than typically for the later years. So, you know, it might be a little difficult, but definitely if it's something that you want to, then you should not hold back.
I would also say, just in line with that last bit about failing fast too, like if you're able to identify early in your college career that, oh, the actual, like what this looks like day to day in the workforce is not something I like. I may like learning it in school, but I don't like doing it every single day. I don't like coding for hours every single day. And it'd be great for that learning opportunity too, just to throw that out there.
as you progress in your academic career and just in your career at large, find ways to lean into your curiosity. So if you know this is something you're curious about, then being able to explore it now and get paid for it too, that could be really tremendous. And so yes, quick learnings, maybe you'll love it and that will jump you off to another place and you're going to make connections that will see you forward, or maybe you'll discover that it's not for you, and that is a super invaluable learning too that can help you save time for the rest of your life. So yes, give it a go.
I have a quick addition, very related to what Chris just said. I think for a lot of people, at least for me and also for a lot of my friends, internships are a really good way to also realize what you don't like. Like, it might not be that you don't like CS at all, or like you don't want to be a software engineer, but like, do you like back-end or front-end or infrastructure or testing or building developer tools, or like, does it matter to you if you're at a small company or a big company, or like I realized for me that it's very important what team I'm on and like how I interact with the manager, and like also a lot about like what projects excite me. And that's like really, really valuable experience to have, and like knowledge to have about yourself and your own preferences when you go look for a full-time job where it's a much larger commitment.
One little thing I'll add is that, yes, this work. If you are a freshman, it may be harder to get an internship, which can happen. But you could also almost make your own internship in ways. So if you see a project, maybe you're like, I wish WoW did this other thing in gameplay, or maybe you really love this one IoT device that you may spur off into a startup. You can create your own internship like that, and then by having the free time to go to a bunch of hackathons and other STEM events during the summer, you're increasing your network. Just another way to think about it.
And portfolio. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Keep it up to date. Start now.
Yeah, I would just say I think college, and for me, it's a very exploratory phase, so you want to really dip your feet in as many things, develop as many skills as you can. If you're a freshman and you can't find internships, what's available on campus? How can you get a job or just help, the IT department, or, there's college campuses that have a lot of opportunities that are, I think, a lot of times underestimated, but it's a way you develop skills, it's a way you, learn new things. So really just develop as many skills, learn as many things as you can, and that just makes you more marketable when you go, for internships in your junior, senior year, and then full-time jobs. Any other questions? Yeah.
Oh, God.
Oh, great throw.
Okay, so I am curious about the ratio between women and men in technology fields, and if that has ever affected you. I'm not like good at that, actually.
Oh, you like?
All right, nice.
Thank you.
So there's obviously a difference. It's not 50-50. I think everyone knows that. I thought, so I've always like been friends with all the guys. Like, I used to play soccer with them, would get like 30 and roll around in the mud. I was like, that's not going to bug me at all that it's like a male dominated field. And that was true in college. I think like all of my friends were like mostly, or project partners were like dudes, and I felt like they respected me and it was fun and it didn't bother me at all. I did have an internship where we had this like big like department meeting thing, and I realized we were 2 women out of, I think, 30 people or something like that, right? And that by itself is like, it's a problem for the industry. I don't think it's a problem for me individually per se, but I actually did realize that one of the things I struggled with during that internship was asking for help. And there were no female engineers on my team. And I hate that this made a difference to me, but I was just so aware that like there was this other female engineer on another team who sat kind of close to us, and I had this thought multiple times where I was like, if she was just on my team, I would have asked her right now, right? And like, I don't know why I had that thought, because as I said, I was like friends with all the guys. Like, men are like great people, right? Like, there's like no reason I felt that way, but it did affect me, and I don't know why, but it did have that impact on me. Now I'm on another team of, well, actually we just got some female engineers. They were all dudes and me. And they're like the greatest guys ever, and I have like none of those issues. So like I kind of want to say that it's not a problem with like gender ratios and men and women. Like always. It might just be like the dynamics of the team. Maybe, you know, there's like something else. So it has affected me, but I don't think it's like it has to be that way.
Oh, I love this thing. So when I walked into the introductory computer science course as an elective, I remember it was this large lecture hall of hundreds of people, and I think fewer than a third were women, and that was a very intimidating feeling at first, and just for whatever reason. I think it's always hard when you don't see someone that you like can innately identify with, and you know, gender is just one component of that, right? But I remember trying to channel my mom, who was a Chinese American woman who was in science and was the primary breadwinner for my family when my dad was going to school at a time when that combination of things was really unusual. And so just, you know, some techniques to go into that full force that I took away from her example. It's like, you know, it helps if you just keep showing up and you're able to be an advocate for yourself and your needs, being able to ask for help when you do need it, you know, and maybe it's not going to happen at scale, but maybe you can find like a friend or two, and you can have that connection and that social support when you need to call upon it, and being able to be assertive, show up and be present. And this, I think that I've always historically worked in contexts where it was more men than women, but I think there are definitely companies that are working to ameliorate that ratio. And now I work in a place where most of our leaders are women and people, and lots who are also people of color, and that's very inspiring. I'm like, oh, okay, so if there's a dynamic or something that doesn't work in one place of work, there are others where maybe you can find one that is more favorable to what would make you successful in an environment you can thrive in.
So right now on my team, it's about 70-30 females to males. So there's more females on our team, which is pretty cool. But on a side project we just did, it was all males except for me. And I noticed myself getting kind of trampled over, even though I was leading the project, and they would always want to be, it seemed to be a push that they would want to talk over me, so that was sometimes annoying. But it was really nice that I had one friend who would always be like, well, yeah, Lindsay said X, Y, or Z, I think that's a really good idea, and I had someone in the room who would make sure that they were my buddy, almost, so that they could be like, bringing me back in, saying like, hey, this was said, Lindsay did do this, blah, blah, blah. And I remember this morning during a presentation we had, I really just wanted to hold someone's hand because it was an award ceremony, and I was like, did we make it, did we not make it? But I didn't want to hold a guy's hand, that would be a little bit weird. So it is nice having that like female connection on your team. But I think as long as you find a battle buddy wherever you're working, and you're able to present yourself in a way that like, hey, my opinions matter, I'm here, please listen to them also, you should be good.
Oh, one other thing. So if you are in a room or you are working on a team, it might also help, whether you're male or female, look around and see, oh, is there someone who is not included in this conversation that should be here? And so then being able to stand up and say, so-and-so should be here too. So invite those teammates to be there too. No matter what you do or where you are. You can have both.
No. One thing I'll add is I can speak for Microsoft, but I think in the industry in general, there's a big push for diversity and inclusion. That's across gender, race, and a lot of other categories. And I think the real reason for that is from a computer science or engineering standpoint, if you're building products for the world's very diverse. So, the team that's building those products, you need to have diverse perspectives and inputs from people so that those products can be accepted and, used the right way by the world, which is a diverse place. Cool. Any other questions? There's got to be something bobbling around in the head.
Why is this room named after Steve Wozniak?
When I was told the address of this, I was wondering probably fund it. It's all about money. I mean.
He's right here on the wall
Yeah.
too. Again, for the employees, Chris, do you know why the room calls was?
Oh, I'm loud. But yeah, my understanding, and there could be more to the story, but yes, indeed, he was an alum, you know, from here, and came and finished his degree quite a bit later in life after the whole Apple thing, when he started his career. He gave us funding in order to make this nice area that we do so many events in, and I'm not sure, Heather might know, do you know if he donated it all for the revamp that we just did? I know they were gonna ask him, the chairs, whenever he was on campus, the chairs were like, oh, it's been like, 15 or 20 years, maybe we can get him to like get new carpet for us or something. So, I don't know if he paid for that, the new version, cause it's been redone recently, but, the very first iteration of this room, yep, that was why, it was nice of him, thanks.
We have like 2-3 minutes left. Like someone has got to have a question right on the tip of their tongue and just don't want to ask it. Just go for it. Thought that would work.
Do you guys have first robotics at your school or computer club? Are you guys part of it?
This is
What's your team number?
Oh, maybe it's fine.
You were in picture? Oh, it's very exciting.
Yeah,
What was the
no worries.
competition this year?
Deep space.
What does that mean? Is there a question? I'm sorry.
I mean, it's space themed. Yeah.
We just put blocks and spaceships.
Blocks
Yeah.
and spaceships. Did you guys know that you can go on to First Robotics website and look at all of the scholarships and internships they have available for you guys? Fun fact,
Okay.
fun fact. Free money right there. You're doing awesome things in First Robotics.
Okay.
Any other burning pieces of advice? Last chance for questions. We're here for you guys. We want to make sure that you get some answers. Yeah, go for it.
What should we do?
In life?
Up until college, up until we go to college, like what's the best course of action?
Figure out what you enjoy doing, whether it's CS or not, and just like be like very honest with yourself about that.
Have fun.
Yeah.
Dance. Play video games. Do what you love.
Right, like when I say enjoy what you enjoy doing, it could be dance or like something else. Like it doesn't have to be CS.
Oh yeah, definitely. Take a moment to, I think it can be kind of a rat race, because you're trying to ramp up so you can graduate. Maybe you'll think about doing higher education, maybe you'll think about what kind of job you want, but I think it's important to check in and take the time to think about, oh yes, like when do I feel good, and what am I doing in those moments that I feel good, and is that something that I can keep doing into the future? And so yes, take the time to identify those moments and keep them with you and remember them.
If you have some friends that aren't going to troll you and are actually like really good friends, you can ask them what you're really good at and what you're not so good at, and that might give you some feedback into what you might be good at.
There's actually the professor who sits right down the hall who I did research with about Schenker. He has this really great quote in his very last lecture where he says, lying to others is immoral, but lying to yourself is just plain stupid. So like, just like be honest about like what you feel and what you actually want to do, and like don't let pressure from outside, whether it's your parents or your friends or society or whatever, sort of dictate what you end up doing. That was deep, sorry. That was my own. I think it's so right. I was like, when he said it, I was like, wow, I should stop lying to myself.
No, I think that's super valuable. Like I've had a very winding career, but early on I knew like what I wanted to do and what I loved, but for one reason or another I'm like, oh, maybe I should explore XYZ because this is what others have told me is a viable path in life. Yes, but now I know, stick to your guns, you'll make it work.
Well, thank you so much, everyone. We'll give them a panel a round of applause. Thanks, everyone.
What's processing tutorials? She created